Moving to Poland is attractive, and that is no surprise considering the upsides this country has to offer. But what are the upsides? In order to take a closer look at this, I would like to take the opportunity to show the 5 greatest upsides of moving to Poland. The numbers really speak for themselves. Between 2008 and 2017, 77,869 Germans officially moved to Poland. Of course, it must also be mentioned that the migration of Polish citizens to Germany and all around the world within the last decades is huge. So let us start with the first upside. The first upside is Poland's geographic location in Europe. The location of Poland in Central Europe allows you to visit many other countries in Western, Central and Eastern Europe. Poland borders not only on Germany, but also on the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Ukraine, Belarus, Lithuania and even Russia. In addition, Poland borders the Baltic Sea, which opens all doors to activities related to the sea. Of course, the strength of this upside is dependent on where and why you want to settle down in Poland. But it is good to know that traveling and exploring these countries is for sure an option for you. Which country has the world's third largest GDP? Which country does not border India? And which country calls this population pyramid its own? At dailygeographyquiz.com, I've programmed a website that sends you questions just like these via email for free. Simply enter your email address as shown in order to receive a brand new cutting-edge geography question so that you'll increase your knowledge about our world day by day. You'll find a link down in the video description. Thanks. A big upside is the lower cost of living. If you live off 2,000 euros a month in Berlin, Germany, you'll just need 1,367 euros in Warsaw. For the same lifestyle, life is therefore over 30% cheaper. If you live off 2,000 euros a month in Torino, Italy, you'll need just 1,322 euros in Kharkov. Life is almost 34% cheaper. And if you live off 2,000 euros a month in Lyon, France, you'll need about 1,030 euros a month in Lodz. Life is almost 50% cheaper. For sure, the cost of living is still a bit higher than in Hungary or other southern or eastern European countries, but it is still an advantage for people who want to get as much as possible for their money. Not only life in general, but also property prices in Poland are low. You can get a new, small, one-room apartment in the middle of Warsaw for as little as 60,000 euros or 74,000 US dollars. Just think of how expensive, or rather how inexpensive, a piece of land or a small house in the countryside is. To sum up, moving to Poland in terms of cost of living definitely makes sense. Many people who move to Poland see the country's conservative politics as an advantage. Poland's strongest party is named PiS, or Prawo i Sprawiedliwość, translated as Law and Justice. It is described as being skeptical of the European Union, being Christian democratic and national conservative. Of course, it is up to you to decide whether that is an up or downside. I found a really interesting interview with a guy called Marek Mlinarczyk, who used to work for the opposition in communist Poland and is now a supporter of the conservative PiS party. Perhaps this interview can help you better understand the political situation in Poland. I quote from the interview: "As recent statistics have shown, the PiS is supported by about 45% of the population. Why is the party so successful? The social program convinced many Poles. The PiS has fulfilled its promises from the last election campaign. For the first time, the state pays a child benefit of 125 euros per child and month. We also give 80 euros for each child at the beginning of the school year. Senior citizens receive a 13th annuity payment. Young people below the age of 26 do not need to pay taxes. This is especially convincing for many Poles. I would therefore not call the PiS a national conservative party, but a socially conservative party. But isn't the opposition right with its allegations that Lech Kaczynski and the PiS are endangering democracy with their judicial reform and the dismissal of critical journalists from state television? State television has never been independent. It used to be supported by Donald Tusk and his friends, now the PiS. That's too much propaganda for me too, but there are alternatives. Democracy is not in danger. When it comes to judicial reform, it is important to know that many judges who were dismissed were still appointed during the communist era. There was no reorganization of the judiciary in Poland like there was in East Germany. The EU Commission has expressed doubts about the rule of law in Poland. The government also made mistakes. However, the Western perspective is not the only one either. I read with interest that Ursula von der Leyen, President-elect of the EU Commission, called for more realism when dealing with Poland. The tone seems to be changing. But the PiS is fully committed to nationalism. Among other things, the country does not accept refugees. That contradicts all European values. Criticizing Brussels does not equal being an anti-European. The Poles know what they have in Europe, but it's not fair that the hectare payments to the farmers here are significantly lower than to the farmers in France or Germany. And one must also not forget in the West that 3 million Ukrainians live in Poland, including 800,000 with refugee status. Polish culture is another benefit of moving to Poland. Let's first look at the culinary specialties. Polish cuisine is related to the kitchens of neighboring countries. Nevertheless, there are specialities. According to Wikipedia, the historical culture of the country's nobility and farmers is reflected in the Polish cuisine. More precisely, this means the following. Breakfast comes with bread, tea, sausages, cheese, as well as fresh cucumbers, tomatoes and onions, supplemented with scrambled eggs on Sundays. The main meal of the day is warm and is usually eaten in the late afternoon. It generally consists of a soup and the main course. In the evening it is usual to have a meal with bread and sausage, with vegetables such as pickled cucumbers and marinated mushrooms. In Poland it is also common to consume snacks between meals. Of course, culture is not limited to the cuisine. While in many countries you shake hands with men and women while greeting, in Poland it is only appropriate to shake hands with men. Respect for strangers and the elderly is the top priority in Poland and reflects how well you were raised. In terms of family planning, Poland has changed a lot. 20 years ago, the family had a higher priority than work and career. Today, the career comes first. The Poles are internationally known for their hospitality. If you are visiting a Polish family, you will find a large selection of food and drinks on the table. It is almost impossible to return home hungry or thirsty. However, this feature is common not only in Poland, but also in other countries in Central or Eastern Europe. Of course, the advantage of family reunification does not apply to every person, but considering the fact that there is a huge Polish diaspora, so many people moved from Poland to other countries around the globe, the probability that you as a viewer of this video have Polish roots is not that low. So you can see that Poland is a very attractive destination to move to. Poland is great not only for older people who want to get more for their money, but also for young people that originally are from Poland and feel the urge to discover their Polish roots. Do you have any idea which country I should address next? Then feel free to write it down in the comments. Thanks for watching and I'm looking forward to receiving your comments. See you soon!